The ID.7 Tourer aims to offer a slightly more versatile take on Volkswagen's largest ID electric model. There's a plush compromise between a pricey large executive EV station wagon and a more compact EV estate. It certainly has its place. My name's Jonathan Crouch. I've been testing cars for over 40 years. You'll find them all on the Car and Driving Car Reviews app. Here, I'm going to try and tell you everything you really need to know about this car in a way you'll find nowhere else. Let me hand you over to our presenter, Steve.
Volkswagen widens the aspirations for its all-electric luxury ID.7 with this more versatile Tourer version. We've had large electric estates like the BMW i5 Touring and more compact ones like the MG5 and station wagon EV versions of the Peugeot E-308 and the Vauxhall Astra Electric. With this Volkswagen ID.7 Tourer, it's time for something in between. As the name suggests, it's an estate version of the ID.7 hatch, and it entered production in 2024 just as another similarly sized largish Volkswagen, the Arteon shooting brake, was leaving us. Being an EV, this Tourer isn't a direct replacement for the Arteon shooting brake. That was combustion based and sometimes a PHEV, but the design spirit which links those two products is similar, even if the ID.7 Tourer is arguably less original to look at. That originality didn't help the old Arteon model sell in decent numbers though. Will this Tourer do better? You can find out more about this kind of car by downloading the Car and Driving app. And if your interest is specifically in this ID.7 Tourer, then stay with us for the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. The ID.7 Tourer doesn't, of course, drive any differently from the ID.7 hatch, which means that what you get is a very tranquil driving experience. Not really because of the subdued levels of wind and road noise, although they are very well suppressed. It's more because there's such a measured, predictable feel to everything that this Volkswagen does. As with the hatch, there are 3 ID.7 Tourer variants from which to choose. All mainstream sales will be of the 2 rear-driven versions. Both of those use a rear-mounted 286 PS motor. Either the base Pro model with a 77 kWh battery and 372 miles of range, or this Pro S version, which has a larger 86 kWh battery with 422 miles of range. That bigger 86 kWh battery is also used by the top dual-motor GTX 4Motion flagship model, which manages up to 357 miles of range and gets all-wheel drive courtesy of an extra motor at the front, and that boosts total output to 340 PS. 0 to 62 in the GTX Tourer takes just 5.5 seconds, which is just over a second quicker than the single motor models, on the way to a 112 miles an hour top speed that all ID.7s share. Whatever your choice of ID.7 on the move, you choose between 4 main drive mode options: Eco, Comfort, Sport and Individual. And if your Tourer features DCC, Adaptive Chassis Control, Adaptive Damping, which is optional with the single motor models, but we have that fitted here, then those settings will control ride quality too. Volkswagen's extremely proud of this improved adaptive damping setup, but you won't often venture towards the stiffer end of the vast scale it has, because tussling with tarmac tears doesn't really fit with the kind of car this is trying to be. Much better to select comfort and enjoy the soft and cosseting ride that's delivered by the long travel springs and by the specifically tuned high damping elastokinematic mounts on the sophisticated 5-link rear axle. Through the turns, this ID.7 really feels its long wheelbase size and prodigious 2.2 ton curb weight, but thanks to the low centre of gravity and also to those grippy Bridgestone Potenza Sport tyres, there's plenty of cornering traction, and there's a precise feel via the vegan leather steering wheel from the bespoke variable assistance steering rack. Unlike on, say, a BMW i5 Touring, you can't add a rear wheel steering system, but thanks to the rear-driven, so naturally tight turning format, this Volkswagen really doesn't need that. More significantly, unlike most rivals, but as usual with an ID model, there's very little driver control offered when it comes to regenerative braking settings. There's certainly no one pedal style driving mode. There's just the usual gear selector B setting, which noticeably increases off-throttle speed retardation. And it also ramps up the powertrain's natural tendency to build up battery energy regen automatically as you approach turns and junctions via the standard Eco Assistance system. Strangely, for such a futuristic car, old-fashioned drum brakes are used on the rear axle. Volkswagen argues that the usual discs aren't really needed there because the regeneration system does most of the braking work anyway. At highway speeds, when you might prefer to click into D and dispense with the regenerative harvesting, it's really hard not to be impressed by the exemplary refinement that we mentioned earlier on, and also by the sophisticated drive systems that marching progress has brought with it. This Volkswagen's standard travel assist setup, for example, a camera and radar sensor controlled assistance system. Now this will autonomously accelerate, brake and steer your ID.7 while maintaining a safe distance 2 vehicles ahead. Now you can tow with this car too, up to 1 ton with the single motor models or up to 1,200 kilos with the GTX. This Tourer variant is less divisive looking than its interestingly styled Arteon shooting brake predecessor, which is disappointing but predictably necessary. Perhaps a more significant comparison though is with the current Passat, which is only offered in estate form. An ID.7 Tourer is shorter, wider and taller than that alternative Volkswagen combustion powered model, which in PHEV form will be an interesting ID.7 Tourer alternative actually. This isn't one of those estates lengthened for extra practicality over the originating hatch model. The dimensions here are actually identical to the standard ID.7, 4,961 mils long, 1,862 mils wide and 1,536 mils tall. Long roof proportions are accentuated by a contrast coloured top and subtle roof rails, and the rakish silhouette delivers a sleek 0.25 CD drag factor, just 0.2 CD more than the standard model. Compared to the hatch version, this grey D-pillar trimming panel is much wider, but like the ordinary ID.7, there are big wheels between 19 and 21 inches in size. We've got the 20-inch black Montreal rims here. Curiously, as usual with VW EVs, the rear wheels still house old-fashioned drum brakes. The look you get at the front really depends on the variant you've chosen. The top GTX model gains sports-style bumpers, but with all versions, there's a stubby bonnet flowing into flush Matrix IQ Light headlamps, connected by an illuminating strip with a white designated Volkswagen badge in the centre. As you'd expect from an EV, there's no attempt at a grille. The nose section is largely closed, with visual character defined in particular by the three-dimensional design of the bonnet. That does actually open, but there's no space underneath it for anything apart from fluid reservoirs. Lower down, there's a prominent square section for all the radar tech and tall, narrow corner air curtain cutouts. The rear view is dominated by this full-width grey light bar with a central badge illuminated in red and 3D LED tail light clusters. There's a full-width lower reflector strip. Again, the look slightly different for the top GTX, which gets a diffuser-style sports bumper. Of course, what's more important here is what you can't see, and that's the MEB electrified platform that all the brand's ID models use. Let's take a look inside. The door handles are flush to the bodywork, although they don't spring out to meet you as you approach. Now, a disappointment of the brand's early ID models lay with the often complex and usually less than ergonomic design of their cabins. But when we first tried the standard ID.7, we were favourably impressed by the way that Volkswagen's been able to evolve its approach to cabin architecture. And we still are. You're immediately struck by the feeling of quality, the rather pleasing smallness of the instrument screen, the neatness of the way that all the central console features are hidden by these twin sliding tops, and also the smartness of this twin-stitched mid-level faux leather fascia panel. Now you wouldn't expect there to be any difference over the hatch version, but in fact there is one. There's the addition of this rear wiper control on the top of the wiper stalk. As with the hatch, there's good, bad and quirky here. Good are these wonderfully supportive AGR approved ergo-active front seats with power adjustment, heating and massage. Less welcome are hangovers from an earlier era of ID design, like the awful unhygienic sliders for volume and climate control, the fiddly touch-sensitive haptic steering wheel buttons, and the absence of dedicated rear window switches. As for quirky, well, that applies to the play and pause pedal designations, of course. We mentioned the little instrument screen, which doesn't really need to be much larger because it's supplemented by a standard augmented reality head-up display, which Volkswagen would prefer you looked at instead, and which blends information such as speed, lane markings, distance warnings and turn arrows from the navigation system into the driver's line of sight, which doesn't leave much for this little instrument screen to show, apart from, of course, the basics: speed, road signs, battery range and so on. As you can see, it's not mounted in a pod as with other IDs, but instead is sited along the line of the cabin's innovative smart air vents, which rather annoyingly can only be angled by dragging icons across the central touchscreen, or if you prefer, by the advanced IDA voice control setup. We haven't yet mentioned what some might see as this cabin's defining feature, this 15-inch central touchscreen situated high on the uncluttered fascia. This infotainment monitor has permanently displaying upper and lower bars, the bottom section for temperature controls, the top right configurably populated by your 5 favourite functions. Click this lower blue framed square to view the information that you want in various customizable widget tiles. Here, for example, we have mapping, radio, vehicle and charging. Or you can click this upper right app button to view a screen full of little icons. These include apps like charging functions, the App Connect, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto setup, and the cabin's elegant 30-colour ambient lighting system. There is also a useful tips and help one, which guides you graphically through the car's various functions. Nearly all of these applications can also be activated by the IDA voice control system that we mentioned earlier on, which, unlike with earlier IDs, can activate drive modes and has also been configured to work with ChatGPT, so it can more accurately work with broad queries as well as specific ones. There aren't any separate climate controls, which normally we'd be irritated by, but in this case the screen setup works pretty well. It fills the monitor with detailed graphics, which can then disappear with a touch of the provided home button, which allows you to return to the main menu. There are 2 options you're probably going to want, both of which we have here. The 700 watt Harman Kardon premium sound system isn't the most powerful we've ever tried, but it is all an audiophile would really need, with 12 high-end loudspeakers, a central speaker at the front, a subwoofer in the boot and a 16-channel sound system which offers 4 pre-configured sound settings. We also think that you're going to want the smart glass panoramic sunroof. Now this can become opaque, or it can be made transparent again from one moment to the next via a polymer dispersed liquid crystal layer which is integrated into the glass. The switch is activated by touch control in the roof console or by the online IDA voice assistant. What else? Well, a starter button is provided, but there's no need to use that because the car senses your presence. So all you have to do when you get in is to flick the column-mounted gear shift stalk into drive. Ergonomically, everything's pretty much spot on. You don't sit quite as low as you would in a combustion-powered estate of this size, but for most likely owners, that extra seating height won't be unwelcome. And it plays its part in making this ID.7 Tourer an exceptionally easy car to see out of, even more so than the hatch version, in fact, thanks to these large rear quarter-light windows. You're also aided by all-round sensors, a 360-degree surround view camera, and Volkswagen's standard Park Assist Plus, via which the car can steer itself into spaces. As for cabin storage space, well, there's plenty of that over what on a combustion model would be the central transmission tunnel. There's this two-part slatted covered storage area. The rear part contains cup holders, while the front part has a wireless charging mat and twin USB ports, although they're of the USB-C type, so you may well have to have this unsightly converter lead attachment. Below this centre console is a lower storage area which you may like to use to keep items left in the car away from prying eyes. There is a twin-lidded box between the seats with a lift-out tray, but disappointingly the glove box turns out to be tiny. It's halved in size by a fuse box. Volkswagen doesn't provide an overhead sunglasses compartment or a ticket clip in the passenger sun visor, but there are decently sized flockline door bins, plus there's the usual ticket clip in the driver's visor. Right, time to look in the rear. Now, we were very impressed by the amount of back seat space on offer when we tried the ID.7 hatch. And of course, nothing's changed in that regard with this Tourer model, helped by the lengthy 2,971mm wheelbase, 132mm longer than a Passat. Legroom is positively limo-like at 850mm, which is just as well because there's next to no foot space beneath the front seats. A 6-footer will be very comfortable behind a front seat occupant of the same size, and because there's a flat floor here, you can fit 3 adults back here without a problem, although the central occupant might object to this slightly raised middle cushion. There's plenty of headspace too, a little more than in the hatch because the roof here doesn't slope down quite as sharply, and that headspace is hardly affected at all if you option in the vast panoramic glass roof we mentioned earlier. The Tourer's roof extends further back than with the hatch, so that glass top can be even bigger, which is very nice. But you don't necessarily need this expensive extra to lighten the rear cabin, because that is quite effectively done here by the large quarter-light windows that we talked about earlier on. You wouldn't expect the seat base in an EV of this kind to slide, but it is a bit disappointing that the backrest doesn't recline. Still, the standard 3-zone climate system means backseat folks get their own ventilation controls with twin vents just above and twin USB-C ports just below. The door bins are large enough for a bottle of water, and as you would of course expect, there are 2 cup holders in the fold-down armrest. Plus, you get the usual seat back pockets with thoughtful upper pockets. These are included for mobile phones. As you'd expect, ISOFIX child seat fastenings and overhead coat hooks also feature. Plus, you'll get individual overhead reading lights too, and there's a further coat hook on each B-pillar. But just how practical is this ID.7 Tourer? Well, let's finish with a look at that. The powered tailgate rises to reveal a parcel shelf that retracts back in 2 stages, and that reveals a 605-litre boot. That's only 75 litres more than you'll get with the hatch, but it is very class competitive. It's 35 litres more than you'll get in a BMW i5 Touring, for example. So it should be enough for most families. That's just as well because, as I mentioned earlier on, there's no underbonnet frunk for the charging leads. These have to go below this adjustable height floor panel here, and because of the raised height of the cargo base and the limited difference between the floor heights, they only just fit. Volkswagen has forgotten to put lights on the inner side of the tailgate, but otherwise this is a practical space with deep recesses either side, a netting attachment on the left, a light either side, a 12-volt socket, 2 bag hooks each side and 4 tie downs. Plus there's a button for the retractable tow bar on the left if you specified that. There is a ski hatch, so longer items can be pushed forward between 2 rear-seated occupants, and there are cargo sidewall catches for when you need to flatten everything down, at which point up to 1,714 litres of space is freed up, and there's almost 2 metres of loading length. As an option, you can add in a bicycle carrier coupling with a drawbar load of 75 kilos. That's suitable for 2 e-bikes. As we filmed in early autumn 2025, ID.7 Tourer pricing was starting from around £52,000, representing a £790 premium over what you pay for an ID.7 hatch. Prices at the time of this test started from around £52,000 for the base 77 kWh Pro Match Plus variant, and that was rising to just over £55,000 for this 86 kWh Pro S Match Plus model. Going all out for an ID.7 Tourer and choosing the top GTX Plus 4 Motion model, that'll require a £60,000 budget. Now, if you're not completely wedded to the idea of having an EV, but you like the idea of having a Volkswagen estate of this size, then you might also consider the e-hybrid PHEV version of the brand's Passat. That offers 82 miles of battery range and so could be used like an EV for much of the time. And as we filmed, that was priced more affordably than an ID.7 Tourer from around £44,000. Now, whether you think that amount of money that Volkswagen wants for an ID.7 Tourer is decent value, that'll depend on which rival EVs you're comparing this car against. Although entry-level pricing isn't actually very far above what you pay for a long-range version of a mid-sized EV crossover like Tesla's Model Y, this Volkswagen is actually a significantly bigger thing. Bigger, in fact, when it comes to EV estate purchase than the kind of comparable Audi A6 Avant e-tron, which would cost around £10,000 more in comparable form, and probably represents a closer match to what you get here. This ID.7 Tourer is actually no more than around 100mm shorter, and it offers more luggage space than a BMW i5 Touring, and that's a model that's priced from around £70,000. So in short, if you're thinking that this is an executive-sized EV estate for mid-sized money, well, that is pretty much what's being offered here. The spec sheet won't put you off either, because this ID.7 comes with plenty of standard kit. The Match Plus trim of the two single motor models, that'll get you 19-inch Hudson alloy wheels, IQ Light LED matrix headlamps, keyless access, there's a climate windscreen, there's rear privacy glass, there's a powered tailgate too, all-round parking sensors, an alarm, a heat pump to preserve range in colder conditions. There's Park Assist Plus to steer you into spaces, and driving profile selection driving modes. Inside, Match Plus trim gets you an augmented reality head-up display, comfort spec seats with art velour microfleece upholstery, and at the front there's also power adjustment, heating and massaging. You also get an area view camera, a 3-zone air care climatronic setup, and a 30-colour ambient lighting system. Media stuff is taken care of by a 15-inch ready-to-discover central screen with navigation, an 8+1 speaker audio system, and VW's wireless app connect system for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Plus, there's the usual WeConnect ID app, which allows you to remotely connect with your ID.7 via your smartphone. If you can stretch to the top GTX Plus model, then Volkswagen will add larger 20-inch Skagen alloy wheels, DCC adaptive chassis control, sport-style body-coloured bumpers, sound-insulating laminated rear safety glass, and also heated rear seats. GTX Plus trim also gets a 12-speaker Harman Kardon 700-watt audio system and ventilated front seats. You can also add those into a single-motor ID.7 Tourer model with the extra cost Interior Pack Plus option we have fitted here. Other GTX style features you can add into a single motor model like this one include DCC adaptive chassis control and the sound insulating laminated rear safety glass. They're both included in this test car's Exterior Pack Plus option, which also includes an electronically darkening panoramic sunroof here. The Pro S test car also has larger 20-inch Montreal black wheels and a swiveling tow bar. Most of the available paint choices cost extra too. That includes this car's stone-washed blue metallic finish. As for standard safety kit, well, there's all the usual VW Group stuff, and most of what you need is standard fit. This includes the usual front assist autonomous braking system, drowsiness and attention monitors, speed warning and dynamic roadside display, plus a side assist lane change setup and traffic jam assist too, and that virtually drives the car for you in urban queues. There is also the usual front, side and curtain airbag system linked to an e-call setup, and the full contents too of the brand's assistance pack, which includes lane assist that helps you to stay centered in your lane, and travel assist, which combines adaptive cruise control and lane keeping capabilities by offering semi-automated steering, braking and acceleration. There is also emergency assist. Now this brings the car to a controlled stop if you're taken ill at the wheel. Rear traffic alert warns you of approaching vehicles when you're reversing out of a parking space, and exit warning that will warn your occupants who are about to open doors in the face of oncoming traffic. You might hope that this ID.7 would use the advanced 800 volt electrical architecture, which allows another similarly sized VW Group model, the Audi A6 Avant e-tron, to use the new generation of ultra-fast public chargers. Because the ID.7 uses a different platform to that Audi, merely a stretched version of the MEB chassis, which was primarily developed for much smaller and much more affordable EVs, only a 400 volt system is actually in play here. But Volkswagen has done its best to maximise possible charging speeds from it. The ID.7 can charge at up to 175 kilowatts in 77 kilowatt hour Pro form and up to 200 kilowatts in its two 86 kilowatt hour guises. On the move, as with any EV, you might struggle to match the quoted range figures, even with maximum brake regeneration engaged and the most frugal eco drive mode permanently selected. With this Pro S 86 kilowatt hour model, we've been getting around 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour on this test. That works out to around 284 miles of range. With all ID.7s, a standard eco assistance feature draws on navigation data and road signs detected by the car's forward-facing camera. So if your ID.7 is approaching a bend or a town boundary, the system can visually indicate that you should lift off the accelerator. This apparently simple yet complex calculation allows the car's drive system to perform optimum energy recuperation, thereby supporting optimum range performance. Onto battery replenishment, Volkswagen provides its EV owners with a WeCharge app, which helps them to find and use over 150,000 public charge points. Expect a 10 to 80% DC charge in the 77 kilowatt hour model to take 28 minutes from a public rapid charger. It's 26 minutes with the two 86 kilowatt hour models. There's also battery preconditioning, which once a charger destination is programmed into the navigation system, readies the battery for maximum top speed charging capability on arrival. You can trigger that feature manually too. With the 77 kilowatt hour model, AC charging at home with a 7.4 kilowatt wall box takes 12 hours 15 minutes. You can reduce that to 8 hours by using an 11 kilowatt wall box. With the 86 kilowatt hour models, AC charging at home with a 7.4 kilowatt wall box takes 13 hours 45 minutes. You can reduce that with an 11 kilowatt wall box to 9 hours. As no version of this car costs less than £40,000, your ID.7 Tourer will of course be subject to the government extra luxury car tax until it's 6 years old. An ID.7 driver will enjoy lower maintenance costs though than would be necessary for a combustion model. Obviously there are no oil changes and the regenerative braking means that the brake pads are designed to last the life of the car. There is a fixed servicing schedule with a basic inspection after 2 years, unlimited mileage there, and subsequent services every year or 20,000 miles. You'll get the usual unremarkable 3-year, 60,000 mile Volkswagen warranty. The third year of that is operated by the dealer, and the usual 8-year, 100,000 mile warranty for the battery. Single motor ID.7 Tourers are insurance rated at Group 38. It's Group 41 for the top GTX Plus. There's the usual EV 3% benefit in kind tax rating until spring 2026. Residuals after 3 years and 36,000 miles are expected to be in the 52 to 53% bracket, which for reference is better than a pricier BMW i5 Touring. Before the EV era, a large Volkswagen estate of this size and price wouldn't have stood much of a chance, as the disappointing sales figures of the old Arteon shooting brake showed. But customers who are planning to spend on a large EV of this sort are less badge conscious these days, and that's a mindset that this ID.7 Tourer aims to capitalise on. You're obviously not going to be attracted to this car if you don't already like the ID.7 hatch it's based on, but if you do and you need something a fraction more practical, an ID.7 Tourer might suit you perfectly. There is just about everything here that you get from a more expensive BMW i5 Touring, and for not that much more than a well-specified Peugeot E-308 station wagon or Vauxhall Astra Electric Sports Tourer. It's a kind of car Volkswagen is very good at.